During World War II, Wehrmacht officer, Colonel Stauffenberg, who is stationed in Tunisia, North Africa, gets disappointed by Hitler's oppression, and thinks he might be a danger to Germany's peace and prosperity. As he discusses his concerns with his superior, they are attacked by an airstrike from the enemies, which kills most of the soldiers, and leaves him severely injured. Hitler visits military headquarters on the Eastern Front in Russia, where General Tresco and his accomplice plan an assassination attempt on him, by setting the explosive in a liquor bottle, and presenting it to the staff as a gift. As they wait for the news, they get devastated to hear that Hitler's plane safely landed, and the explosive failed to detonate. Tresco then calls the head of the staff, and informs him they mistakenly mixed up the bottles, while informing him that he will pick up the package on his visit to Berlin the next day. In Berlin, Tresco meets General Friedrich Olbricht, who shares his concern that they might get exposed, because a resistance leader, General Hans, just got arrested. He then meets the colonel to request the package back, and learns that they are still safe, as the officer returns it without any questions. After informing General Olbricht about it, Tresco asks him to find another loyal person, who can take over Hans's place in the resistance. Meanwhile, General Stauffenberg is brought to the military hospital in Munich, where the doctor tells his wife Nina, that he has lost his right hand, 2 fingers on the left hand, and an eye. After recovering from his injuries, Stauffenberg is approached by General Olbricht, who offers him to join the resistance, and take over Hans's position. Stauffenberg thinks this position will make him a traitor, but he is ready to take the risk, to save Germany from Hitler's tyranny, and joins the group. He arrives at the group meeting, where the Field Marshal, Erwin von Witzleben, Colonel Ludwig Beck, General Tresco, Dr. Karl Goerdeler, and the others discuss their plan to assassinate Hitler. After hearing their different suggestions, including killing Hitler, or waiting for the Allies to take over Germany, he thinks the resistance is misunderstanding the situation, and has no plans on how to proceed after killing him. He discusses his concerns with General Tresco, and says even if they succeed in their attempt, the SS will hunt them down in just a few hours. Agreeing with him about the flaws in their strategy, Tresco urges him to come up with a perfect plan. After the meeting, Stauffenberg returns home to meet his children and wife. As they hide in an underground cellar to take refuge during the bombings, he comes up with Plan Valkyrie. The next day, he meets General Tresco, and shares details about the Operation Valkyrie, while explaining it is actually Hitler's contingency plan to save his government, by mobilizing thousands of reserve army troops, in case of a national emergency. He also discloses that although Valkyrie is used in civil unrest, they can use it after staging a coup from the SS, but they would have to assassinate Hitler first. General Olbricht agrees with him, but tells him there are still a few shortcomings, as in the case of Valkyrie, the orders directly need to be released from the reserve army chief, General Fromm. After the meeting, General Olbricht and Stauffenberg return to the War Ministry, to have a meeting with Fromm, in which they offer him the position as the head of Wehrmacht. Although he refuses to get directly involved, as he is afraid of the consequences, he agrees to stay silent in this matter. As the next step, Stauffenberg meets Erich Feldgiebel, a signal officer in the army, and requests his help in executing their plan. Although hesitant to go against Hitler, he eventually decides to help them out. While discussing the plan, Stauffenberg suggests taking control of Berlin, as all the occupied cities, including Paris, Vienna, and Prague, take direct orders from the capital. He also shares that the group will arrest the SS members, while also announcing the closure of the concentration camps, and locking the officers in barracks. As he explains the plan, Tresco informs him that he got transferred up front, and won't be able to join them in the operation. Stauffenberg gets upset, but Tresco assures him he can do it well. After Tresco leaves, while asking him to lead the operation, Stauffenberg asks the typist to make necessary modifications in Valkyrie, while mentioning they will release it after Hitler's death. After coming back to the office, he is informed by General Olbricht that he got promoted as the chief of the reserve army, in place of General Hans. Although Stauffenberg doesn't want to take any new responsibility, Olbricht convinces him, saying this will give him a chance to get closer to Hitler, and will be a great help for their cause. Olbricht then tells him that they have made the necessary modifications, but need Hitler to sign the document. After eventually accepting the promotion, Stauffenberg meets his new assistant, Adjutant Lieutenant Heffen, who assures him of his full support in Operation Valkyrie. On June 7, 1944, Stauffenberg and Heffen visit Hitler's residence, the Berghof, where Stauffenberg informs him about his new modifications in Valkyrie, and he signs it without paying attention to details. After rejoining the group, they attend a meeting, where Colonel Albrecht Ritter Merz briefs them about the explosives they are planning to use. Upon their question about its effectiveness, he explains that Hitler's enclosed barrack will magnify the impact, and there is no chance of making it out alive once the bomb explodes. General Olbricht then questions the alternate plan, in case Hitler still survives, but Stauffenberg thinks they will have to initiate Valkyrie anyway, because there will be no going back from that point. He then informs the group about having an inside link in the form of Eric, who will disconnect all the communications after the explosion, so no one except them can get the proper information. After finalizing the plan to seize control in Berlin after the assassination, Olbricht tells him about Hitler's right hand, Himmler, and advises him to detonate once he is in range as well. After the meeting, Stauffenberg returns home and asks his wife to leave, as they might be in danger after the execution of their plan, but she assures him of her support. On July 15, as Stauffenberg prepares for the assassination attempt, General Beck once again goes through the details, while telling the group that once Hitler will be gone, they will seize the communication, and the reservation army will take control in Berlin. After issuing a letter to inform the officials that SS is planning a coup, they will arrest the leading officers, to ensure no one resists their orders. Stauffenberg will return to Berlin to lead the reservation army, while General Beck will take over the role of Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. He also gives each member an identity card, while telling them no one will be allowed to enter the perimeter without it. They start working on the plan, and Olbricht issues a standby order to the reservation army. As the soldiers get ready, Stauffenberg says goodbye to his family, and flies to Wolf Lair to attend a strategy meeting with Hitler. Upon arriving there, he spots Erich and tells Heffen about him, before entering the barrack. After realizing Himmler is not at the briefing, Stauffenberg calls Olbricht and Beck, while requesting permission to proceed anyway, but they stop him from attempting anything. Soon, the meeting concludes and Hitler leaves safely, while Stauffenberg is also forced to retreat, while the reservation army is asked to stand down. General Fromm argues with Stauffenberg and Olbricht for trying to overpower him, and threatens to get them arrested if they try to take control again. In the next group meeting, Stauffenberg argues with them for stepping out at the last moment, and questions their indecisiveness. Karl gets offended by his remarks, and demands his release from the group, but is stopped by General Beck, who informs him that Himmler has released his arrest warrants. They advise him to leave the country immediately, and refrain from making any contact, until they inform him about the success of their plan. On July 20, 1944, Stauffenberg and Heffen leave for Wolf Lair again, and sneak in the explosives inside the building. Stauffenberg orders Heffen to get the car ready, while he goes with the other officer, but is informed that the meeting is shifted to an open barrack, due to the extremely hot weather. After getting a call from Beck, Stauffenberg leaves the meeting, while another officer Heinz Brandt places the case behind the table leg, hence unintentionally moving it away from Hitler. While leaving, Stauffenberg hears the explosion, and believes Hitler got killed along with his staff. He gets into a jeep and forces the driver to proceed, while telling him that he has orders from the Führer. Erich calls General Olbricht's office to inform them about the incident, but they cannot understand the message due to distortion, and he disconnects all the communication as per plan. At Olbricht's office, General von Kornheim urges him to initiate Valkyrie, but he refuses to do it without getting confirmation about Hitler's death. Meanwhile, Stauffenberg dodges the officer at the checkpoint, and makes his way out of Wolf Lair, before flying back to Berlin. General Olbricht and Kornheim still argue with each other, but when Olbricht leaves the office, Kornheim forges his signatures and initiates Valkyrie, while issuing orders for another standby. Olbricht finds out about the letter, and demands an explanation, but they receive a call from Stauffenberg, who confirms Hitler's death in the explosion. He gets upset with Olbricht for not doing anything in the meantime, and orders him to get Fromm on board, or arrest him. Olbricht then issues an order to the officers, while informing them about Hitler's assassination, and the coup from the SS. General Fromm questions Olbricht about the source of the information, and makes a call to confirm it, but is informed it was just a failed attempt. Fromm tells Olbricht about Hitler's safety, but Stauffenberg, who has just arrived, thinks it's just propaganda from the SS. After making necessary announcements, Stauffenberg meets General Beck, where the police chief assures him of his full support. Upon Stauffenberg's orders, the resistance group begins taking over the ministries, while arresting important officers, including Gestapo and Nazis among others. Major Otto Ernst Riemer attacks Goebbels' office in an attempt to arrest him, but he connects him to Hitler by the phone, who orders him to catch the traitors, hence confirming he is still alive. After recognizing his voice, Major rushes out of the office, and orders the release of all prisoners, while informing his staff that the reservation army has been duped. General Fromm meets Stauffenberg in the office, and calls him a traitor for executing the assassination attempt, but he orders to detain him. Meanwhile, the reservation army gets another notice, informing them that the operation is terminated, and they are ordered to stand down again. The resistance group then hears the news on the radio, which confirms it was just a failed assassination attempt, and Hitler only got minor injuries in the explosion. After anticipating the upcoming circumstances, Stauffenberg orders the staff to escape, but gets arrested along with his friends. Attempting to clarify his position, General Fromm holds an impromptu court-martial, in which he orders Beck's arrest, and sentences Quernheim, Olbricht, Heffen, and Stauffenberg to death. At his request, Beck is given a pistol, which he uses to attempt suicide. General Tresco also does the same, while placing a grenade on his throat, while Olbricht, Heffen, and Stauffenberg are executed by the firing squad, and others involved are hanged to death. This was just one of the 15 failed assassination attempts on Hitler, before he committed suicide after being surrounded in Berlin. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this.